Buying a house is a lot more expensive than you think. Most people just want you to understand about your down payment. There's way more to it than that. Here's my video on the cost breakdown for everything that goes into buying a home. When you're buying a home, there's 3 different types of payments that you're gonna need to be aware of before you actually get to the closing table. Number 1 is you're gonna need to understand your down payment. Now, most people understand this to be how much skin in the game I'm kind of putting down, and then the bank's gonna make up the rest. Well, that's mostly true. The down payment is, yes, the skin that you're putting in the game, but it's the amount of equity that you're putting into the property right up front for the bank to give you a certain type of loan product. That's important to know. The amount that you put down may affect the amount of interest rate that you're going to pay a bank after the fact. Some banks are going to give you a better rate if you put more money down. Others will not. Some first-time homebuyer incentives that are out there say that you don't even have to put any money down. It's 0% down in order to buy a house, and they'll give you a great rate on top of it. So it's really important to get educated about what different types of loan products are available for you, either as a first-time homebuyer or maybe a second-time homebuyer or an investor. So definitely do your research, talk to your local pros, talk to a couple other loan officers that are out there and compare the products and understand how much of your down payment is actually going to be required, and put that down on your spreadsheet as the first item that you're going to have to save for when you're buying a house. Cost breakdown number 2 is the closing costs in order to pay for your property. So what are closing costs? People think that it's like the realtor fee all the time. Well, actually, in most states around the country, your realtor fee is actually paid out from the seller's side. So kind of wipe that off the docket there. Is it a cost that's kind of built into the price? Yes and no. Many times people think if I just buy a property directly from a seller, then I won't have that fee. Well, unfortunately, everyone in the market believes that someone's trying to save money. If they're selling the property themselves, then they want another discount. And so the actual sellers try to price their property higher in order to reequate for that, or think that they don't need to use a realtor. They end up selling for as much or more. And then most of the time, a buyer's agent is going to want to make their fee off that process at the same time. It's very rare that you can actually eliminate this fee out of the process. In fact, you want to look at it as an expense in order to get a better deal on the property or be represented. But that realtor fee is traditionally baked in on the side of the seller, so let's hold that off to the side for right now. The other fees that go into closing costs are going to be your bank fee. So the bank's going to want to make some money. They're going to also ask that you're going to get title insurance, which is the protection for you that if anything goes bad with that title, meaning someone says, I actually owned that property 50 years ago, or one of my kids has the right to that property, that you have title insurance, which backs you up. I've also seen crazy horror stories where someone thought that they owned waterfront and actually didn't. The bank's gonna go to bat for you by getting that title insurance to come through for you, and they'll fight for you for up to $1 million worth of cost there. So it's really important that you get that title insurance. That's likely gonna cost you money as well. That bank fee might cost you somewhere between $900 and $2,000. That title insurance might cost you somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000, if not more, if you have a higher price property. And then there's more fees on top of that. Other closing costs that are included are going to be the amount of taxes that you have to reimburse a seller for. In many states around the country, taxes are actually paid on an annual, if not biannual basis. And the difference in between when you close on the property and the next time taxes are due is actually what you're gonna have to reimburse a seller for. For instance, if taxes are due January and July of a particular year and you buy a property in March, the seller's already paid from their January up to their July payment. So by the closing date, you're gonna have to reimburse a seller from that March closing date all the way to that next July payment. So you're gonna wanna be able to save for that money as well. On top of that, the bank is gonna want you to typically put around 9 months of taxes in an escrow account, so that in the event that you fail to pay your mortgage, that the bank actually has that money in escrow that's paid. So if you stop paying your monthly payment, then the bank is gonna actually be able to still pay your taxes on the property. Pretty dang important. On top of that, homeowners insurance, super important. You're gonna wanna understand that homeowners insurance, typically around 13 to 15 months of that is held in an escrow account. And that way we can actually, in the same process, if you fail to pay your mortgage, the bank would be able to insure the property and have that paid for a number of months while they foreclose on you. So that's gonna be another fee that gets added. Around the country, there's either attorney states or title states. And what I mean by that is when you close on your property, either an attorney is going to be sitting with you at the closing table writing that out, or you're going to close with a title or escrow company, and they're the ones that are going to be closing out the property and recording it with the county or the town. Either one of those are going to want to get paid. Typical costs are somewhere between $600 on the really low end to around $2,000 on the higher end for either title company or for the attorney in order to close out your transaction. Adjustments are another factor that show up in the closing costs. These are going to be things that are already paid for or may have been paid for, like homeowners association fees. So for instance, if you close in the middle of the month and the HOA fee was $500 for the month, you may be responsible for the other half of the month, so another $250. Or if you buy a property and you're an investor and rent's been paid, but you close at the middle of the month, rent would be adjusted as well. So anything that's left by the seller for the benefit of the buyer typically reimburses that seller. So that could be oil in the tank or even prepaid water charges, etc. This field or line item on your closing statement may be called adjustments, in which case you'll see those sorts of fees that are assessed to the buyer, but they've already been prepaid by the seller, you're just reimbursing them. And the last thing, there's no free lunch. Many people say, well, you actually get a free mortgage payment when it comes to closing on their property. Let's say you close in the middle of May and your next mortgage payment, it's not in June, it's actually in July. This is highly typical. They don't typically bill you for that interest for that first, not only till the subsequent month, but the month after that. So just be aware that there's no free lunch with that. All the interest from the day that you close, let's say it's May 15th, all the way to the 1st of July, that will be assessed into your closing costs, and you can see that on the line. Many people are shocked to find out that it's somewhere between 3 and 5% of a purchase price of a property can add up all the way for these closing costs. So definitely budget for yourself, not only your down payment, but also your closing costs. Talk to a loan pro and a real estate agent who are really educated about the process of purchasing properties in your particular area, not just globally or nationally, oh, this lender works everywhere, but really hyper local to understand what your closing costs are going to be. And lastly, let's talk about the third thing in the cost breakdown. These are called prepaids. That's right, prepaids. These are things that happen that you're going to pay for whether or not you close on the property. These are things like appraisals for your property or home inspections. Both those individuals want to get paid even if you don't close on the property. So let's say you go and you inspect a property, that home inspector goes through the home, they might charge you somewhere between $800, $1,000, $2,000, depending on the size of the property or what's involved, what type of tests you're getting, whether that's just home or you want termite, radon, mold, asbestos, etc. And all these different types of tests. Whether or not you close on the property or not is irrelevant to them. They're gonna do their job and they're gonna give you that independent, unbiased report, and that way you can make a decision if you wanna continue to move forward with the property or not. You're still gonna need to pay that person. Another one is going to be the appraiser. The appraiser is going to get ordered from the bank to complete an appraisal on the property. That fee's typically somewhere between $500 to maybe even more, $800, in order to complete a full inspection on the property and determine the market value of the property, what they can prove through the sales comparison approach. Whether or not you decide to buy the property or you get approved for the loan doesn't matter. That person's going to still want to get paid for the job that they did. So understanding your prepaids that get involved is also important. Sometimes real estate companies, they also charge a fee up front. Sometimes other inspectors, etc., charge fees up front. So you're going to want to really understand what your prepaids are before you get into the process. Home ownership is expensive. There's no other way around it. However, more millionaires are made in real estate than in any other place around the country. And if you do the research, you'll find out that those who own real estate actually have a much higher net worth than those who do not. You're constantly building equity into your property. You're constantly seeing either some sort of accumulation of wealth, either through one, money going out of this pocket in order to pay into principal, which goes into the other pocket. You're essentially paying yourself every single month, or you're able to take deductions or see even appreciation in the market. There's so many ways that you can build wealth with home ownership. However, it can be costly. There are so many avenues out there in order for incentives for first-time home buyers or ways to even wrap in your costs by the seller paying some of these costs. Ask a competent real estate agent who really knows the process and let them know your goals and objectives. Hey, I want to pay as little money out of pocket, or I don't mind wrapping some of these costs into the mortgage, etc. Help them, along with your loan officer, decide the best way for you to fund your quest to get a home and find your way in home ownership. Thanks so much for watching. If you want, click that subscribe if this has been helpful for more important videos like these in order to find tips for not only home buying, but also home selling and becoming a better real estate agent.